Hello and welcome back to another video on SQL basic queries. In this tutorial, I'm going to talk about SQL aliases, which are used to give a column or a table a name, something that's an alias. They're often used to make column names more readable, especially given the very robust, world of naming conventions that each company and each business practice uses. So using the alias is a very, useful feature for that purpose. And it also exists for the duration of that query. It doesn't mean that, which means that, whatever alias that you assign to a column or a table will actually be only feasible for the duration of that query that you produce. And then it's also created with the statement of AS. All right, so let's look at some syntax as an example. So let's say we're going to bring uh, uh, all the region data from our table that's called indicator. So region is one of the columns in our world indicator table. So and the name is region. And how do you know all the names? Let's just take a look at all of them. And there you go. That's what they'll look like. So let's say we would like to perform a query where we do not like the name region. Say we want to call it uh, regional designation, let's say. So we say, give me the region column, but then I want you to actually change the name to something else. So call it, change it to regional uh, designation. And there are a variety of ways that you can actually use naming convention. With the cases, it's a couple of methods that I'm aware of are camel cases where you have um, the uh, the uh, the uh, the 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 last word as capital and the beginning of each word as capital. There's Pascal cases where you have the beginning of each of the word in capital, and then you have the snake cases where you have when you use the dash or underscore to assign a label. So naming conventions are different. It really depends on the agency that you're working with. So in this case, I will leave that to you. However, you use uh, for your query. But I just want to make sure that you know how to actually assign a new alias to a column or to a table. So now let's run it. We're going to get the region. The only change is that we have a change of label. It's no more called region, it's actually called a regional designation. The values, all the data that associated with that column will be the same. Again, the only thing that will change is just the alias, the mask, the label temporarily for that specific query will be changed. So you can also do the same thing for, let's say, sometimes you just bring everything back. And sometimes you end up getting, let's say, query actually measures of each of your numerical data, and then what's going to end up happening is you need to assign them a name, right? So that's also something that you can use the alias assignment as something that can help you. So, for example, if I'm going to get the average, right, of let's say uh, surface area, and then and then I'm going to call it as average of surface area, maybe something like that, right? And then I'm going to get, I'm also going to get the average of, let's say, GDP, which is this column right here. And then I'm going to do this, use the same syntax. Let's say, call it average underscore of GDP. And so, and then say from the work indicator table. So, what's going to happen now is um, you're getting uh, pretty much calculation or calculated measures of a couple of these variable columns, but then you just don't want to bring it on as the same name as these. So when you're expanding on a column, or when you're developing some sort of calculation on the top of another column, then as you develop these calculations, then you need to uh, update the naming or the label of that variable as well. So if GDP can be broken down into hundreds of calculations: average of GDP, standard deviation of GDP, ratio of GDP. So as you do the calculation of GDP, you don't want to keep the GDP for all those calculations. Then what you have to do is you have to create names, labels for those each time that you run it, so that the query result can actually have that name. So let's go ahead and run this. And as you can see, we now have two columns. Well, first one is the average of the surface area, just the way I labeled it, and the second one is the average of GDP. So, so again, this is it. We now have the aliases that we assign here on our statement assigned, actually applied here on the query output. Average of surface area using the underscores, and then average of GDP, both using underscores or the snake case. So understanding naming convention is very important, something that you will need to work with your institution or employer to know what kind of naming convention they prefer for their data analytic or database management systems, because that's very important. Again, in SQL, capitalization is not a problem. So if you do select with a capital S or with a small s, it's still going to be the same, because there's SQL is not case sensitive. And but some other programming tools are case sensitive, such as Python. So SQL is okay, especially pgadmin. So let's say even if you change this to capitalization, or what we call Pascal case, where each of the uh, beginning of each of the uh, words in the table are capitalized. As PG admins are going to spit a non-case kind of label, as you can just see here. Everything is within lowercase uh, because it's not important. So that the naming convention, again, the Pascal case or the camel case does not apply here, because capitalization or case sensitivity is not important in SQL. But to use the snake case, or to use space between the label, that's something that you may want to be careful about. Like now, if I were to change these separators, the underscore separators with space, then you're gonna see I'm gonna run into a problem, because uh, that does not comply with SQL syntax. There's an error with the off. So as you can see, as soon as I put average off, SQL thinks that this is actually a statement, a part of a statement. And let's say even if I get rid of off and I still run this two words here, it's still going to give me an error because it thinks that I'm actually assigning it two names or two column names. So therefore, it's important to keep them together. Yeah, either you're doing it through underscore or if you want to like write them all together. But underscores are one of the best practices to for naming convention that I suggest. And again, it's different based on the company that you work for. So again, the statement we just wrote created two columns that they have their own aliases, and both of these aliases are available in this query. That can be output to whatever reason you want to use it. And you can also use alias for table syntax. So let's say uh, I want to get uh, PDP from the oh, I already have it here, so I can just run that instead of just rewriting it again here. So from the world indicator, I'm just gonna call this. As you can just see, I put as here with capital letters, and I put here with small letters. It still executed all of them. It's just not important. So let's just call world indicator table now as world odometer, and you're gonna see that it's still gonna run it. And this time, actually, this table name is um, when you do the output, this table name is no more a world indicator. It's going to be a world odometer. And later on, you understand the more the applicability of as when you have like more nested uh, statements, especially with joining different tables, using primary keys, that kind of stuff. And you also understand the order of operation in SQL statements. But this video serves the purpose of explaining the very basic syntax of, uh, how to give an alias to a table or a column. And then also what are the naming conventions, some very high level details. This is it. Thank you so much for your time.